the Mindset Athlete podcast, and I'm your host, James Roberts. I'm a two-time Paralympian and owner of James Robert Fitness, which is an online training, nutrition and mindset coaching business. First of all, I'd like to thank Lauren Williams for suggesting this quote to the show. An athlete is a mindset. It's how you prepare, think and execute. Not because of some elite status or physical stature. Anybody can be an athlete. By Chris Harth. And each week on the Mindset Athlete, we like to bring you inspirational athletes, a message, or experts talking about human optimization to teach you how to change your perception of your mindset and become 1% better. And on today's show, I've got Ana Blease. Ana is a ambassador for RGK and is also in the GB Wheelchair Bicycles Academy. So welcome onto the show, Ana.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. So first off the bat, Ana, my first question to you is, how has lockdown been for you as an up-and-coming athlete?
Well, at first it was just a shock, to the system and everyone's routine. And I think it more affected me mentally when it first started. So I sort of pushed out of my mind, and I didn't really want to think about basketball because I knew that if I thought about it a lot, I'd just get even more, I just miss it even more. So what I started doing is I started doing a lot of indoor workouts and pushes around my house and up and down, going everywhere. And now that lockdown's sort of calming down, it's easier to think about basketball. And because we know that hopefully I'll be back soon, it's a lot easier. And the main thing that's been getting me through is just speaking with everyone who I'd originally be with. So I've been doing a lot of online workouts with some of the teammates, and not only is it good for me physically and mentally, but it's just so much fun, keeping up with, everyone and making sure we all stay in touch. So that's been the best part about it for me. But otherwise, it's just been like everyone else would have found it, just difficult and a bit strange.
Do you think it will, obviously this is a difficult question to answer, curtail your development a little bit in the sport?
You mean affect how I play?
Not necessarily, because that would affect everybody. The actual shooting, passing shouldn't have an issue. That should be all right. But do you think it's slowed up your progress on the kind of the journey you have already got to this point?
I think it's difficult to say on that one because of everything that was going on. I was supposed to be doing exams, and I was on the long list for Tokyo. So I didn't really know where I stood in the first place, but when lockdown came, it was I don't suppose anyone knew where they stood. So I think going back is going to be even more complicated. But I suppose with everything being pushed back a year, that's given the sport time to adjust and everyone to get back where they were. So I'm glad that that's going to happen.
And has it been hard adjusting to training in the house versus, obviously, because I'm a teammate of yours anyway, but club level, but be it the social banter, the camaraderie of teammates, obviously having physical access to a real gym, has it been testing at times?
Yeah, it's been very difficult actually, because before we went into lockdown, I bought a lot of gym equipment because I didn't have any at home. Well, hardly any, because I always had access to the gym and I could just go anytime I wanted to. So I bought a lot of stuff, and then as lockdown went on, it was just becoming more and more difficult to, keep up with my ideas, because normally I've got a coach to give me ideas and tell me what to do. But when you take it upon yourself, it's even more difficult. So like you said, the social aspect I think is a lot more important than you'd originally think, because I was doing my workouts dead well and I was getting on really well, but then as I did it every week, I just became less and less motivated. So we came up with this idea that like 3 times a week we would FaceTime people and do workouts together, because I said once you've got someone telling you what to do, you're more motivated, and when you're with them, you can't get away with cheating yourself.
Do you think that's the difference between, say, somebody in your position as obviously an academy athlete versus maybe somebody in the general populace, that they're more inclined, and obviously this is me saying this, not you, so I could take the backlash, that the general populace will maybe gravitate more to the excuse to, oh, I haven't got the time, I haven't got the resources, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, that would be held against you if you were to do that.
Yeah, so you mean like the social aspect of being on your own would be giving you excuses?
Using that as an excuse to, oh, I'll do one less rep here, I'll do one less set here.
Yeah, I think so. Because even though I'm an academy athlete, everyone cheats sometimes and everyone can have their lazy days. But I think being in lockdown is definitely going to improve everyone's motivation, I think. Because when we go back, we'll know that, oh, we don't want to be in this situation again. So we'll be working harder to keep it up, basically.
And B, obviously, with you being in Wales, Anna, is it difficult seeing, obviously, your contemporaries in England being having, say, access to gyms as of Saturday gone, as we're recording? Obviously, I think Scotland is this week. Has it been difficult to say, to kind of see, well, how things are progressing in different countries, and yours being probably more cautious?
Yeah, I think we're all a bit jealous at the minute, but yeah, it's quite difficult actually, because being within the community, and like obviously we're all in Wales, all of our team, but when you're training every week and going all over the place for matches, you kind of forget that it's a different country and that you're on different times and rules, and so yeah, it's been difficult having to watch them be ahead of us. So, for example, seeing all of the English squads being able to go to the outside courts and just play basketball, that's been difficult, because we got it took away at the same time, but they got given it back first. So it's almost like, how's that fair? But I went the other week for the first time. I went to an outdoor court, and it was just raining and really windy the whole time. So it's almost like it wasn't a great first time back, but at least it's a start. And hopefully I'll be able to get into gyms. But yeah, it's been tough trying to watch the English get back to normal when we're behind.
Do you think, coming back to your initial point with the having a drain on your mental aspect of it, of thinking of the virus, do you think it's given you a greater perspective to not fixate on, obviously, England and Wales having slight rules with your English teammates being able to do something that I know deep down you massively are passionate about? Do you kind of have to put that to your back of the mind, because it's like, well, if I think about this too much, it's going to put me in a bad place?
Yeah, I think as I said before, it's now that we've been in this situation for a while, it's become easier, and it's almost like my mental state has grown, because when we were like 5 months ago, I wouldn't have gone a day without thinking about basketball. I mean, I probably still don't, but I don't think about it as much, and it's almost like I've kind of enjoyed, as much as I've missed basketball, I've enjoyed learning like what life's like without it. And you've got so many more interests, and you can I've never spent so much time with my family. Like, I've been stuck with them inside, and even though I'm sick of them, I've been able to have a few months off, and I haven't been off for this long since I was 8 and I started the sport. So it's been better to grow that mental state, because we never know when we're going to find ourselves in this situation again. So you need to have that capacity to put it to the back of your mind and focus on something else.
Do you think it's a lesson learned for you more specifically then, that it's given you the state to be more reflective and to look at the bigger picture, and to be not so engrossed as some people can be, in terms of like you're so focused on your craft, you lose sight of what's not what's important, but what is. If you take that step back, you look at the whole picture, not just a portion of it.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. I've been, it's been easier to think about the big picture and what the future looks like. But I think especially looking at the outer picture, like I said, like learning what life's like without the sport, I've been, now that, even because I'm still in school, I've still had to do the work. So I think now, when I've been off with basketball and now I'm at home, I've finished school and I found the work a lot easier when I wasn't focused on something else. I mean, even though I had a good balance before, it's been sort of even better, and it's like taught me that I can like balance it more. So when I go back, I'll be able to be more focused on basketball, but also on the big picture instead of one or the other.
Do you think in the past you've tried to, it's not micromanage the word I'm looking for, you're trying to multitask too hard, and then you can't seem to put your total focus on one at a specific time?
I think I've always had a good balance, but this has helped, and it's like I've never really been able to focus on one or the other. I've always had to do both. So now that I've done one, I know that I can do the other one and both at the same time. So I like look back on how I managed it before, and now when I go back, I can do the same but better. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Do you think that set you up well for university then? Because that's obviously, I give you a little insight. That's more than likely what you're going to have to do.
Oh, I hope so.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a bit of give and take, because ultimately the university wants you to succeed as well. Because
Yeah.
I'm not going to say where you want to go, but that's obviously a discussion that you're going to have with your family, the governing body, etc., on where they'd like you to go, and things like that. But ultimately, I'd say it puts people like yourself in a good position that you're probably well ahead of your peers, if I use myself or Mike, who is both our coach back in when we were your age. It's probably a blessing in disguise, because ultimately you have to grow up a little bit quicker, even still, with very much the, obviously I'm not going to put words into his mouth, but I don't think he'll mind, in terms of, obviously sport makes you grow up quicker because you have to make decisions, rightly or wrongly. But I think the lockdown for you, and obviously your contemporaries, peers, you've got to be resourceful again to be able to make the right decisions, obviously, going forward, to obviously put you in a better position, should I say, in the near future, and obviously the long-term future.
Yeah, I hope it has set me up, because it's been hard, and I don't even know what I want to do yet. So I think knowing that we're all capable of managing this, and it's almost like I feel like I just started high school and now I'm finished. Like I've just got 1 year left, and even though it's a shame that I didn't get to do the exams, it's almost like I get a second chance to do better. So I hope it's worked.
Well, as you know, you do the work, you reap the rewards, and I think everybody that does sport and then listens to this episode, they know that, because if you do the work, you generally get the reward. If you don't do the work, probably luck if you get the result, because you're very, very lucky, but ultimately, depends in terms of the exams, because are you quite academic then?
Yeah. Well, not to brag, but I hope so.
Whereas I was probably more theoretical. I could do things in practicals, but exams, I didn't like them. But obviously that's something people don't know about me. But anything that was coursework related, I'll probably do very, very well, because that's not difficult. And then and I used probably sport once I went to university. That's why I went very much into psychology, because it's the most useful of for me in sports science, because it goes hand in hand. You learn what you learn in a classroom, and you see if it works in the real world, in the sport. And if it doesn't work, no, I'm going to bin that theory because it's not useful enough. And then obviously everything that you learn in the sport, you take back into the classroom. And I think it gives you, and obviously I'm not going to make you decide to do that degree, because ultimately I don't want to do that. But I think with it enables you to probably learn both ways. It's very much goes hand in hand. Whereas I think with everything else, it's useful but not really practical.
Yeah. I think it's sport has definitely helped with school, and school's definitely helped with sport. I think even though they're total opposites, they go really well together. And I love it. I love school. Like, it makes me sound like a geek, but I do. And I'm not a very creative person. I don't like the writing, but I like the science and the maths. But I think that works well into sport, with the stats and everything and the tactics, because it's more sciencey, especially with the outer aspects of sport. Like, one of my options that I took was food and nutrition, so helping plan the diets, and that is going to help in the future with the sport. So I think everything that I chose to do in school was based around sport, and everything that I chose to do in sport was based around education. So I think if I hadn't have done sport, my school life would be completely different.
So your school, and I will name them because I know what it is, Richard Gwynn. So they're not like most high schools then, in terms of they didn't have you baking cakes then?
No, well, we did cook a lot, but not anymore really, because of this whole clean thing. But yeah, it's a good school, and they're really supportive of the sport, so I can't complain about them.
But in terms of where you see yourself going, Anna, and I know this is going to be a very difficult question, because ultimately you can't have complete control on this question. Where would you like to see your career go?
Definitely international. I want to be in, if not Tokyo, definitely Paris, and definitely LA, and hopefully further on after that. I get asked this question all the time, and it's always just simple answer is like GB, want to play for GB, and that's all I want. I want to have something after that in terms of like academic wise, but I have no idea what that will be yet. So I'm gonna do the GB thing, and then that'll be my career.
What about the Commonwealth?
Oh yeah, definitely. That would be like within the international. Hopefully the 3-on-3 thing will catch on. And hopefully that will go ahead, because not only would I like to go international with GB, I'd love to be able to wear a Welsh vest internationally, because it's not often that you get to see Wales on the TV in the Commonwealth, especially for a sport like wheelchair basketball.
You can go further than that, Anna, because obviously Mike's older than me, I'm older than you. I never thought I'd see go near, not go near, never come near a Welsh tracksuit ever again. Obviously, since I left swimming, and then probably with Mike, he probably never saw himself ever wear Welsh tracksuit. And to give some context to the listeners listening to this one, if we go back to my early career when that was a possibility, and you would have been very young in 2006, it was actually harder to make the Commonwealth team than it was to make Paralympics. So that kind of puts it in perspective as, I won't say it's more difficult for a disabled athlete than an able, because that's a little bit too harsh to people within the home countries. But be it from maybe a standpoint of a little bit of disparity between the two, I think it's slightly more difficult, because normally some of them might happen to be world record holders or things like that.
Yeah, I think it's hard enough to spot a disability sport. Like Welsh basketball just started streaming the women's games on BBC.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's amazing in itself, and it's a shame that it's only happening now. Hopefully it would have happened in the past, but I think it's even better for the Welsh thing to happen, because like you say, it's Wales coming forward instead of GB, because even though GB is amazing, I'd love to wear a Welsh top.
I think it gives you a different perspective as an athlete, and be that if you're Scottish, English, Northern Irish, Canadian, Australian, Kiwi. I think it gives that opportunity, obviously, to home countries to be able to wear a tracksuit that they wouldn't normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see yourself? It's a difficult question, because obviously we don't know. This is an uncertainty aspect of the sport. But how do you think your sporting career is going to be kind of changed from that basis by obviously the restrictions that we've got in the UK? How do you think basketball is going to change from your perspective? From what it was a couple months ago?
That's hard to say, not knowing what's going to happen, but I'd like to think it'll go back to normal, because that's what I'd love it to do. But I don't know. I mean, especially with team sport, after all, this is going to be difficult. They're probably going to be the last to go back, but it's going to be even more difficult with basketball, because you're constantly in contact with people. You can't play a socially distanced game of basketball. So I honestly have no clue what's going to change, but I hope that in a year's time everything will be back to normal.
Well, that's the difficulty of it, of the team sport, because I think I saw the Bulls over Northern Ireland talk about themselves going back to training, thinking, and I shared that with Mike so we could have a look, thinking, well, no ball for 2 weeks. So in a sense, that's just pre-season training then. And then speaking to other athletes that I've got fortunate to know how other sports have been impacted, like rugby, they might not even play a season. So, and they're being told to prepare that you might train, but you might not play, which is when I actually sat down and actually thought about that. It's like, well, can I mentally train but not play? Obviously, I pose that to you. if that situation was to arise, would it be a difficult one to have to overcome mentally?
I'm not sure, because obviously I've only played 1 and a bit seasons. So before that, I was just doing it was almost like pre-season, but all the time, because apart from junior league, I wouldn't play like competitively. So I think for me, if I was told that we could go back tomorrow, but you can't play for a year, I'd do it straight away. Mm-hmm. Because even though I love playing, I miss the playing, training basketball for me is like playing. As long as I'm with the team and like North Wales nights, that would be great to go back. But even if I couldn't go back to GB training, I'd love to just be able to get in the hall, have a scrimmage, if not just do some drills. Like, I miss it so much, but training for me is like playing. So if I was told I could train tomorrow, I'd do it straight away.
My penultimate question to you, Anna, then is, if you had to sit down with any athlete, dead or alive, who would that be and why?
Oh my God, that's a tough one. Does it have to be a wheelchair basketball athlete?
No, any athlete that you want.
Michael Jordan.
And why?
Oh, just because, well, for a start, I just love to meet him. But he's won so many championships. And I just love to, like, he plays basketball, obviously not wheelchair basketball, but it's still basketball. And I'd love to meet him and just have a chat about sport and basketball and what his career was like, and, you know, see what his advice would be. I think that would be amazing.
And my final question to you before we wrap up the episode is, if you had to summarize what we've been speaking about today into one sentence for people to take away, what would that be?
Wow. Wow, we talked about a lot. I would say just enjoy what you have, because now that we haven't got basketball at the minute, but we're still cracking on and enjoying the home workouts. But when we're back at basketball, we're going to enjoy it even more. So no matter what you have, just enjoy what you've got while you've got it.
So once again, Anna, thanks again for coming on the Mindset Athlete podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure's been all mine. If you like this episode, please do share it with your friends, and do let Anna and I know what you thought of the episode by tagging us over on Instagram at Anastasia_8904. So I'll spell that out. That's ANASTASIA_ the number 8, the number 9, the number 0, and the number 4. And as always, you can check me out at James O. Roberts 11. So I'll spell that out again, as usual. That's JAMES, the letter O, ROBERTS, and the number 11. And again, you can do the same on Twitter and Facebook. And if you had any additional questions, don't hesitate to shoot them over as well. And finally, don't forget to check Anna out on her social medias. That's Anastasia_8904. And on Twitter, you can find her at 8904 Anastasia. But don't forget to check out my free content as well at fitamputee.co.uk and click on the tab Resources. But not forgetting, I've also started a new Facebook group, not so new anymore, especially for the podcast, which you can find by typing in The Mindset Athlete over on Facebook. And last but not least, and not forgetting, I've also rebranded my other Facebook group to AIM 24/7 Fat Burning Support Group. So come and check out the AIM tribe. The links will be in the description. You can find all the show notes at mindsetgame.libsyn.com under the category General. So once again, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of the Mindset Athlete Podcast.